Hello students, welcome to part 4 of how to program the video game Cheese Chase using Scratch 2.0. So now we're going to create the maze that Mimi the mouse has to run through. Okay, so the maze itself will be a sprite. Okay, so in the sprites list, let's click on the paintbrush again, paint a new sprite. To bring up the paint editor, I didn't mention earlier that this is called the paint editor. In the bottom left hand corner, we want to make sure that we are in bitmap mode. Bitmap mode. Okay? Okay. So let's create the maze inside of our work area here. So let's click on the line tool. And this time, I want to set the line width to much thicker. I want to go probably halfway. I'm going to move that slider halfway across. I'm going to choose a dark color for my maze. It doesn't have to be black. It can be a dark blue or dark purple, okay, or a dark green. It's up to you, okay? I'm going to use black. Actually, I'm going to use dark blue. So what I want to do is I want to paint a perfect rectangle around the outer edge. So I can hold the shift key and I can go from one side to the other. Okay, and then I'm going to create my vertical lines doing the same thing, holding the shift key. Okay, and then I'll finish the outline at the bottom there. Okay, so I'm going to continue to hold the shift key as I draw my line. So I want your maze to look something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. I'm going to do quite a simple one. Okay, all right, so here we go. Now remember, I want to leave enough space for Mimi to run around and to travel in. I don't want her to get trapped in any corners. Okay, and I want to make sure that the width of any of my alleyways is wide enough for not only Mimi but other enemies to get by. So I don't want to make any of the paths too narrow. Okay, and again, I'm using the little hint that I'm holding the shift key as I draw all of these vertical and horizontal lines. Okay, so I've got a tricky spot in here where Mimi could get trapped. But again, if the piece of cheese appears somewhere in there, you've got to go get it. Okay, so as I drew my maze, I can see that I've got a little bit, I've got some little bits here that I want to clean up. So what I can do is I can zoom in and I could use my eraser tool, and with a very steady mouse control, I can get rid of any of these little kind of nibs. So what I'm going to do is, because I don't want Mimi to get caught on these things, so I'm going to look for any of them and just kind of shave them down. Just kind of manipulate that eraser so that you've got nice clean corners. Okay? Don't want any little bumps here. Sometimes the eraser is not as precise as you would want it to be, but again, I'm zoomed in, so if it doesn't look very good, when I zoom back out, it'll look fine. Okay. Okay, so let's zoom back out and let's have a look at that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay. All right, so let's add a script to this sprite. So from the top here, the tabs, let's click on the scripts tab. So let's create a little script here. Okay, so we always start with the events blocks, the when the green flag is clicked, and then we'll go to the motion blocks, and then we'll snap a go to box in there. And remember, we always want it centered on the stage. So centered on the stage means X value of 0, Y value of 0. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to run the script, we're going to run the whole game, and we want to make sure that Mimi can go through, okay, and travel throughout the maze. So I'm going to click on here we go. Now, Mimi is quite large, okay? And at this point, Mimi can run through the walls, which is no good. But I just wanted to test to make sure that the maze appeared perfectly centered on the screen. Okay, all right, so let's move on. Okay, so let's click back on the ghost. Oh, wait, sorry. Mimi, the ghost, and the cheese are all too big for the maze, aren't they? So we need to shrink them down. Okay, so let's click on the mouse. Okay, Mimi the mouse's script. So we've used this tool before, this block before. So let's click on the purple looks blocks and let's find the set size. Okay, so I'm going to grab this one and I'll place it right at the top of my script. So we're going to reduce Mimi the mouse's size to 35%. Okay, all right, then we'll go to the motion blocks and then we'll go to X and Y. So we'll put that underneath the set size to 35%. And what we want is we want Mimi to always go to the top left-hand corner. So we need an X value of -200 and a Y value of 75. An X value of -200 and a Y value of 75, positive 75. Okay? And then we're going to grab a point in direction block and place it underneath. And we want to have Mimi facing to the right, which is 90 degrees. So Mimi will always be facing to the right because we're always going to start Mimi in the top left-hand corner. Okay? All right, so now let's adjust the size of the cheese. So let's click on the cheese sprite down here. We'll have the cheese's scripts here. Okay, so we need to grab a looks block and let's find set size 2. Okay, so what we're going to do is we want to have the cheese about twice as big as Mimi the mouse. So I'm just going to randomly guess 30%. And then what I want to do is I want to run the game and I want to get Mimi to be right next to the cheese here. And I want to see, is Mimi about half the size of the cheese? No, because the cheese is still very big, okay? So you've got to experiment because it depends on how big you drew the cheese sprite in the paint editor. So for me, I think maybe 20%. Let's see. Let's click on the green flag and let's line up Mimi beside the cheese here. It's very hard to see over there. So, you know what? That's a little bit too small. So if I move this ghost out of the way, I can see that the cheese and Mimi, they're not quite 2-to-1 in size, are they? So instead of, let's click back on the cheese sprite, maybe I need it to be 25%. So again, you've got to experiment. It depends on your game. Okay? All right. So the other thing we want to make sure is we want to make sure that Mimi and another object could pass through the pathways of your maze. So this is kind of a very skinny area here, and I want to make sure that Mimi could pass as well as another object. So you might have to do some adjusting of the maze sprite. You may have to remove walls with the eraser tool. Okay, if I click on the sprite here and if I go to costumes, you may have to remove some walls and move them back. Okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to add a background color. So let's click on the stage here in the stage area. Okay, the stage info area. Okay. All right. So we want to make sure that we are in bitmap mode. Okay. And then we're going to use the paint fill button. And because I chose a dark blue for the maze, I probably want to choose a lighter color for the painting. Okay. So let's click on the backdrop. So you have to click on the backdrop to activate the paint can or the fill tool. So I want you to experiment with different colors and see which one you like. Okay, again, look in your stage here. Look at your screen. You want that nice contrast. You want to pick colors that go well with each other. Okay, so I'm going to choose a light blue and a dark blue. That's a classic combination. You know that they're going to do well. Okay, so I'm going to go to File, Save Now. This concludes part 4 of the video game project Cheese Chase. Thanks for watching. Bye.